Admiral Kexton stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Void Piercer. Through the large window, he could see the blue planet called Earth spinning slowly below them. 12 massive warships floated in perfect formation around his command vessel. Each ship carried thousands of soldiers and weapons that could destroy entire cities. The Admiral's 4 eyes focused on the primitive world. His intelligence reports said the humans were weak. They had barely learned to leave their own planet. Their technology was hundreds of years behind the mighty Zephyrian Empire. This would be an easy conquest, just like all the others. "Sir, all ships report ready for the invasion," said Commander Valthur, his second in command. The tall alien's gray skin gleamed under the bridge lights. Like all Zephyrians, he had no hair, and his large black eyes could see in almost total darkness. "Excellent," Kexton replied. "Begin scanning their major population centers. We will land in their largest cities first. Once the humans see our power, they will surrender quickly." Far below on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison floated inside the International Space Station. He was doing his daily maintenance work when the computer screens started flashing red warnings. Jake pushed himself over to the main console and stared at the readings. His heart began beating faster. "Houston, this is the ISS," Jake spoke into his radio. "I'm seeing massive objects appearing near Earth orbit. They're huge. Much bigger than anything we've ever built." The voice from Houston crackled back immediately. "Jake, we see them too. Stay calm and keep watching. We're trying to figure out what they are." But Jake already knew what they were. The objects were clearly alien spacecraft. He had trained for this possibility, but seeing it happen made his hands shake. The ships were so large, they blocked out stars as they moved dot at NORAD headquarters deep inside Cheyenne Mountain. Lieutenant Amy Wells ran between computer stations. Red lights flashed everywhere, and dozens of people worked frantically at their desks. The mountain base buzzed with activity as military personnel tried to understand what was happening. "Ma'am, we have confirmation," said Sergeant Bob Turner, looking up from his screen. 12 large objects, each one over 2 miles long. They appeared out of nowhere, using some kind of cloaking technology. Amy nodded and picked up a secure phone. "Get me the Pentagon immediately. And wake up everyone on the emergency contact list. This is what we've been preparing for." In a secret underground facility in Nevada, Dr. Richard Blake received the emergency call. He had been expecting this day for 20 years. Blake was the head of something called the Prometheus Project, a program so secret that even most government officials didn't know it existed. "Activate all protocols," Blake told his assistant, Dr. Karen White. "Contact every facility. Tell them Code Black is now in effect." Karen's eyes went wide. Code Black meant alien invasion. For decades, the Prometheus Project had been preparing Earth's defenses using technology recovered from crashed alien ships. Now they would finally test everything they had built. Blake walked quickly through underground tunnels that led to massive hangars. Inside these hidden spaces sat weapons and vehicles that looked like they came from science fiction movies. But they were real, built using alien technology that had been studied and improved by human engineers. Back in space, Admiral Kexton was ready to begin the invasion. He activated the ship's communication system to send a message to Earth. The message would be broadcast in several human languages, though Kexton thought the words were hardly necessary. "People of Earth," his voice boomed across radio and television networks around the world. "I am Admiral Kexton of the Zephyrian Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and you will be allowed to live as our servants. Resist, and you will be destroyed. You have one of your hours to decide." The message played in every major city on Earth. In New York, Detective Lisa Garcia was directing traffic when every car radio and electronic billboard suddenly showed the alien's face. People stopped walking and stared at the gray creature with 4 black eyes. Lisa grabbed her radio. "This is Garcia. I need all available units to start evacuation procedures. And someone get me a line to the National Guard." In Washington, D.C., President Elizabeth Warren sat in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by military advisors and cabinet members. Everyone talked at once, trying to make sense of what was happening. "How many ships?" The president asked General Patricia Stone, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. 12 large vessels, Madam President. Each one carries an estimated 4,000 to 5,000 soldiers based on their size. They have weapons we can't identify, but our satellites show massive energy signatures. President Warren stood up. "General Stone, I'm giving you full authority to coordinate our defense. Use everything we have." "Yes, ma'am," General Stone replied. "We've been preparing for this day longer than most people know." In Montana, Farmer Bill Henderson was fixing his tractor when his wife ran out of their house. "Bill, come inside quick. There are aliens on TV." Bill followed his wife inside and watched the news reports. His grandfather had fought in World War II, and Bill had served in the Army himself. He walked to a locked cabinet and pulled out several military-style rifles and boxes of special ammunition. "Martha, call the neighbors," Bill said calmly. "Tell them to bring their hunting gear and meet at the barn. Looks like we're going to war." The Zephyrian fleet began moving closer to Earth. Admiral Kexton was confident that the humans would surrender before the hour was up. In his experience, most species gave up as soon as they saw the size of his fleet. Those that didn't surrender were quickly defeated by superior Zephyrian technology. "Sir, we're receiving thousands of radio transmissions from the planet," reported the communications officer. "Most appear to be military units organizing defensive positions." Kexton laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Let them organize. It will make no difference. Begin landing procedures. We will establish beachheads in their 5 largest cities." What the Admiral didn't know was that humans had been expecting this day for a very long time. In secret facilities around the world, weapon systems came online. Scientists and engineers who had spent decades studying alien technology prepared to test their creations in real combat. Dr. Helen Carter worked in a laboratory beneath the Pentagon. She had been studying pieces of alien spacecraft for 15 years. Her team had discovered weaknesses in alien shield technology and had developed special ammunition that could penetrate their defenses. "Are the enhanced bullets ready?" she asked her assistant. "Yes, Dr. Carter. We have enough to supply every military unit in North America. The other continents have their own supplies prepared." As the alien ships moved into Earth's atmosphere, people around the world watched the sky. Some were afraid, but many were angry. Humans had always been fighters, and they were not about to give up their planet without the biggest fight in their history. The hour deadline passed. Admiral Kexton received no surrender message from Earth. He was not surprised. Many species tried to resist at first. "Begin the invasion," he ordered. "Show these humans the power of the Zephyrian Empire." The first landing ships launched from the massive vessels. They headed toward New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, and Los Angeles. Each landing ship carried 500 elite soldiers with the best weapons the Empire could provide. But as the ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, something unexpected happened. Hidden missile batteries opened fire from locations around each target city. The missiles had been built using alien technology and were much more powerful than anything humans had ever used before. Several landing ships exploded in bright flashes of light. Others crashed into empty fields as their systems failed from electromagnetic attacks. Admiral Kexton stared at his tactical display in shock. No species had ever shot down Zephyrian landing craft before. "How is this possible?" he demanded. His officers had no answer. They were about to learn that humans were nothing like they expected. Commander Valfear led the first wave of Zephyrian soldiers as they landed in Central Park, New York City. His troops wore black armor that could stop bullets and carried plasma rifles that could melt through steel. Energy shields protected each soldier, technology that had never failed in 300 years of conquest. The commander expected to see terrified humans running in panic. Instead, he found organized resistance waiting for them. Detective Lisa Garcia crouched behind a police car and spoke into her radio. All units, the aliens are landing in the park. Civilian evacuation is almost complete. Military support is moving. Into position. Colonel Steve Parker arrived with 2 companies of National Guard soldiers. They had spent months training for this exact situation, though most had hoped it would never happen. The soldiers carried rifles loaded with special ammunition that Dr. Carter's team had developed. "Remember your training," Colonel Parker told his men. "Aim for the center of their bodies. The new bullets will penetrate their shields if you hit them directly." The Zephyrians advanced through the park in a tight formation. They had conquered 47 worlds using these same tactics. Commander Velther raised his plasma rifle and fired at a group of human soldiers. The bright energy blast hit a tree and set it on fire. But instead of running away, the humans fired back. Velther felt something hit his energy shield. The impact was much stronger than he expected. His shield flickered for a moment before stabilizing. "Impossible," Velther muttered. "Their primitive weapons cannot affect our shields." But more bullets hit his shield, and each impact made it weaker. The other Zephyrian soldiers were reporting the same problem. Their shields were failing under the constant gunfire from human weapons. Private Danny Roberts, a young National Guard soldier, aimed carefully at an alien soldier and pulled the trigger. The enhanced bullet tore through the energy shield and hit the Zephyrian in the chest. The alien fell backwards, his black armor cracked and sparking. "They're not invincible," Danny shouted to his squad mates. "Keep firing." The battle in Central Park lasted for 3 hours. When it ended, half of Commander Velther's soldiers were dead or wounded. The survivors retreated to their landing ship, carrying their wounded with them. It was the first time in Zephyrian history that their ground forces had been defeated by a primitive species. Meanwhile, in the mountains of Montana, a different kind of battle was taking place. A small Zephyrian scouting party had landed near Bill Henderson's farm. The aliens expected to find helpless farmers who would surrender immediately. Instead, they found Bill and 20 of his neighbors waiting in the forest with hunting rifles and years of military experience. These men had grown up hunting deer and elk in difficult terrain. They knew every rock, tree, and hiding place for miles around. Bill watched the aliens through his rifle scope. They moved in a straight line through the forest, making no attempt to use cover. "City boys," he whispered to his friend Pete Williams, who was hiding behind a fallen tree. "Just like you said, Bill. They don't know how to fight in the woods." Zephyrians had thermal sensors that could detect body heat, but the humans had prepared for this. They wore special clothing that masked their heat signatures, technology they had learned from studying captured alien equipment. Bill fired first. His bullet hit the lead alien scout in the head, dropping him instantly. The other aliens spun around, trying to find where the shot had come from, but Bill was already moving to a new position. Pete fired next, then moved. Then Joe Miller fired from a completely different direction. The aliens were surrounded by enemies they couldn't see, being picked off one by hunters who knew the forest better than their own homes. Within an hour, the entire Zephyrian scouting party was dead. Bill and his neighbors had not lost a single man. In London, a larger battle was taking place. The Zephyrians had landed near Buckingham Palace with 800 soldiers, expecting to capture the city's government buildings quickly. Instead, they found British military forces that had been preparing for alien invasion for decades. Commander Tony Hughes led a joint force of British Army, Royal Marines, and SAS Special Forces. They had studied every piece of alien technology that had ever crashed on Earth. They knew the aliens' weaknesses better than the aliens knew themselves. Use the EMP grenades first, Hughes ordered his men. Disable their shields, then hit them. With conventional weapons. The electromagnetic pulse grenades were another product of human engineering using alien technology. When they exploded near Zephyrian soldiers, their energy shields failed completely. Without their shields, the aliens were just soldiers in armor, and human weapons could easily penetrate their protection. The battle for London lasted 6 hours. When it ended, only 200 Zephyrian soldiers were still alive, and they were trapped in a small area near the Thames River. Commander Hughes had lost only 40 men while inflicting massive casualties on the supposedly superior alien forces. Dr. Helen Carter watched the battle reports from her laboratory. Everything was going better than she had hoped. The alien technology that humans had been studying for decades was finally paying off. Their shields operate on a specific frequency, she explained to Dr. Sandra Kim, who had just arrived from South Korea. Our enhanced ammunition disrupts that frequency. But more importantly, they've never faced an enemy that adapts as quickly. As we do, Dr. Kim nodded. In Seoul, our forces used a different approach. We learned that their thermal sensors can be fooled by reflective materials. Our soldiers covered themselves with emergency blankets and attacked from directions the aliens weren't watching. The reports kept coming in from around the world. In Tokyo, engineer Kenji Nakamura had built robot defenders using salvaged alien technology. The robots fought alongside Japanese military forces, and their combined attacks overwhelmed the Zephyrian landing party. In Moscow, Russian forces used the winter weather to their advantage. The aliens' equipment didn't work well in extreme cold, while Russian soldiers were used to fighting in harsh conditions. In Los Angeles, Marine veteran Nick Taylor led a group of former military personnel and police officers. They used the city's underground tunnel system to attack the aliens from below, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Every human victory was being broadcast around the world. People who had been terrified a few hours earlier began to feel hope. The aliens were not the unstoppable force they had seemed to be. Admiral Kex then stared at the reports coming from his ground forces in disbelief. In 300 years of conquest, the Zephyrian Empire had never lost a single battle to a primitive species. Now his forces were being defeated on every continent. How are they doing this? He demanded from his communications officer. Sir, the humans appear to have technology similar to ours. Their weapons can penetrate our shields, and they know how to disable our equipment. That's impossible. Our intelligence reports said they were centuries behind us technologically, but the evidence was right in front of him. Human forces were not just fighting back. They were winning. The aliens who had expected an easy conquest were instead fighting for their lives against an enemy that seemed to know their every weakness. Commander Velther limped onto the bridge, his armor damaged from the battle in New York. Admiral, we need to reconsider our strategy. The humans have been preparing for our arrival. They know things about our technology that they shouldn't know. Kexton's 4 eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Their weapons are specifically designed to defeat our shields. Their tactics counter our standard assault procedures. They've studied us, sir. Somehow, they've been studying us for a long time. The Admiral realized that his easy conquest had become something else entirely. The humans were not the primitive species his intelligence had described. They were a military force that had been preparing for this war for decades. But Kexton was not ready to admit defeat. He had 50,000 soldiers, and the most powerful space fleet in the galaxy. He would crush these upstart humans and add their world to the Empire, no matter what it took. Order all ground forces to establish defensive positions, he commanded. Bring the orbital weapons online. If the humans want a war, we'll give them one they'll never forget. What the Admiral didn't realize was that the humans had been hoping for exactly this response. Every move the aliens made played into plans that had been decades in the making. Earth's defenders were about to show the Zephyrian Empire why humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy, that the real war was just beginning. Admiral Kexton made the decision that would doom his entire fleet. Instead of calling for reinforcements from the Zephyrian home world, he ordered his forces to spread out across Earth. He believed that if his soldiers controlled more territory, the humans would eventually surrender. Deploy forces to every continent, he commanded from the bridge of his flagship. Establish bases in remote areas where the humans cannot mass their forces against us. This was exactly what General Patricia Stone had been hoping for. In her command center deep beneath the Pentagon, she smiled as she watched the alien ships scatter across the globe. They're splitting up, she told her staff. Just like we predicted they would. Now we can hunt them down one group at a time. General Stone activated communication links to military commanders around the world. The plan they were about to execute had been developed over 20 years of careful preparation. Phase 2 begins now, she announced. Turn Earth into a trap. In the Amazon rainforest, Captain Carlos Mendoza waited with a combined force of Brazilian special forces and indigenous warriors. The local tribes had been working with the Brazilian military for months, preparing for exactly this situation. They knew the jungle better than anyone else on Earth. A Zephyrian landing ship touched down in a small clearing 50 miles from the nearest city. 200 alien soldiers emerged, confident that they could easily control the primitive humans. In this remote area, they were wrong. The jungle itself seemed to come alive around them. Arrows flew from the trees, but these were not ordinary arrows. The indigenous people had been given arrowheads made from the same materials used in anti-alien bullets. The arrows could penetrate Zephyrian armor, just like the enhanced ammunition used by regular military forces. Captain Mendoza's soldiers attacked from multiple directions at once. They appeared and disappeared like shadows, using their knowledge of the terrain to stay ahead of the alien thermal sensors. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy they could barely see in an environment that seemed designed to kill them. Within 3 days, the entire Zephyrian force in the Amazon was dead. Not a single alien soldier survived to report what had happened. In the Rocky Mountains of Colorado, Nick Taylor was leading a different kind of hunt. A former Marine had spent years as a park ranger, and he knew every trail, cave, and hiding place in hundreds of square miles of wilderness. Nick's team included hunters, hikers, and survivalists who had volunteered to fight the alien invaders. They were not professional soldiers, but they were people who understood how to survive in harsh conditions and how to hunt dangerous prey. The Zephyrians had established a base camp in what they thought was a secure valley. Their sensors showed no human settlements for miles in any direction. They believed they were safe from attack. Nick and his team proved them wrong. They used knowledge passed down through generations of hunters and outdoorsmen. They set traps that the aliens' advanced technology couldn't detect. They attacked at night when the alien thermal sensors were less effective. They used the mountain terrain to their advantage in ways the aliens had never encountered. These creatures have technology we can't match, Nick told his team as they prepared for another attack. But they don't understand the land. They don't know how to fight when they can't rely on their machines. The attacks continued for weeks. The Zephyrian base camp became a fortress under siege, with alien soldiers afraid to leave their defensive positions. Supply drops from orbit became impossible as human forces shot down every alien aircraft that approached the mountain base. Dr. Sandra Kim had been working day and night in her laboratory, studying captured Zephyrian communication equipment. Her breakthrough came when she successfully decoded the alien language and broke into their communication network. "General Stone," she reported over a secure line, "I can hear everything they're saying to each other. They're scared, confused, and completely unprepared for the kind of resistance we're putting up." "What are they saying about their losses?" the general asked. "They're reporting casualty rates they've never experienced before. Some of their commanders are requesting permission to retreat to their ships. Admiral Kexton is refusing to allow any withdrawals." This intelligence was immediately shared with human forces around the world. Knowing that the aliens were demoralized gave human commanders the confidence to press their attacks even harder. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal tracker Danny Williams was guiding a joint Australian-American task force through terrain that seemed impossible to navigate. The aliens had landed in what they thought was empty desert, but Danny knew better. "The land here has been home to my people for 40,000 years, Danny explained to Captain Linda Foster, the American officer leading the mission. "We know every water hole, every place to hide, every path through the rocks. The aliens are strangers here." The Zephyrian force had been in the desert for 2 weeks, and they were already struggling. Their equipment was designed for temperate climates, not the extreme heat and dust of the Australian interior. Their water recycling systems were failing, and their soldiers were becoming sick from the harsh conditions. Danny led the human forces in a series of hit-and-run attacks that left the aliens even more confused and desperate. The attacks came from directions that seemed impossible, using paths that their sensors couldn't detect. "How do they keep appearing behind us?" demanded the Zephyrian commander as his forces tried to defend their camp from another human assault. Soldiers had no answer. They were facing an enemy that seemed to know the land itself was their ally. Back in space, Admiral Kexton was receiving reports that made no sense to him. His forces were not just losing battles. They were disappearing. Entirely. Entire companies of soldiers were going silent, with no trace of what had happened to them. "Sir," reported his intelligence officer, "we're losing contact with ground forces across all continents. The last transmissions indicate they are under constant attack by human forces that seem to know our positions and tactics in advance." "How is that possible?" Kexton demanded. "We have the most advanced communication and stealth technology in the galaxy." What the Admiral didn't know was that Dr. Kim's breakthrough had given humans access to all Zephyrian communications. Every order he gave, every movement his forces made, was immediately known to human commanders. General Stone used this advantage to coordinate attacks around the globe. When alien forces tried to regroup, human forces were already waiting for them. When aliens tried to retreat to safer positions, they found those positions already occupied by human soldiers. The psychological effect on the Zephyrian forces was devastating. They had never faced an enemy that seemed to predict their every move. Soldiers who had conquered dozens of worlds were now afraid to leave their defensive positions. In northern Canada, a Zephyrian cold weather unit had been sent to establish a base in what they thought would be an empty wilderness. Instead, they encountered Canadian rangers and Inuit hunters who knew how to survive in conditions that killed most other humans. The aliens' equipment froze in temperatures that the local people considered mild. Their weapons stopped working when ice formed in the mechanisms. Their thermal sensors were useless in an environment where everything was cold. The human defenders used sleds, snowshoes, and knowledge passed down through centuries of Arctic survival. They attacked from directions the aliens never expected, disappearing into a white landscape that looked the same in every direction to alien eyes. Within a month, the Zephyrian Arctic base was gone. The aliens had either died from exposure or been killed by human forces that seemed to appear and vanish like ghosts in the snow. Similar stories were being repeated across the globe. Zephyrian forces that had expected easy victories found themselves trapped in hostile environments, fighting. Enemies who knew the terrain better than the aliens knew their own technology. Admiral Kexton finally realized the magnitude of his mistake. By spreading his forces across the planet, he had given the humans exactly what they wanted, the chance to defeat his army one piece at a time. "Recall all ground forces," he ordered. "Establish fortified positions around the major landing sites." But it was too late. Most of his ground forces were already dead, missing or trapped in positions they couldn't abandon. The great Zephyrian invasion force was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had underestimated in every possible way. The hunters had become the hunted, and Earth was proving to be the most dangerous trap the Zephyrian Empire had ever encountered. 6 months after the invasion began, the situation had completely changed. Admiral Kexton stared at his tactical display and could hardly believe what he was seeing. His mighty fleet was trapped in Earth's orbit, surrounded by human defense platforms that had appeared as if from nowhere. What had started as a conquest had become a desperate fight for survival. The remaining Zephyrian ground forces were trapped in small defensive positions around their original landing sites. They could not advance, and they could not retreat. Every time they tried to break out, human forces were waiting for them. Commander Rachel Stone, daughter of General Patricia Stone, led a special operations team through the ventilation systems of the alien flagship. She had been training for this mission her entire life. Her team included the best soldiers from every branch of the American military, and they carried weapons that combined human ingenuity with captured alien technology. "Remember, we need to reach the main computer core," Rachel whispered to her team as they crawled through narrow metal tunnels. "Dr. Blake's analysis shows that if we can plant the virus there, it will spread to every ship in the fleet." The virus had been created by human-computer experts who had been studying alien technology for decades. It was designed to shut down Zephyrian shields, weapons, and life support systems all at once. Getting onto the alien ship had been the easy part. The Zephyrians had never fought an enemy that could infiltrate their vessels, so their internal security was almost non-existent. The hard part would be reaching the computer core without being detected. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, engineer Kenji Nakamura was putting the finishing touches on his greatest creation. He had been working with a team of robotics experts to build something the world had never seen before: fully autonomous fighting machines that used alien technology. "The hunter-killers are ready," Kenji announced to his team. "They can operate independently for weeks, and they're specifically programmed to hunt Zephyrian soldiers." The robots looked like metal spiders, each one the size of a large dog. They could climb walls, squeeze through small spaces, and move almost silently. Most importantly, they were armed with weapons that could penetrate alien armor and shields. "Release them into the Tokyo underground," Kenji ordered. "Let's see how the aliens like being hunted by machines that never get tired and never give up." In Washington, D.C., President Elizabeth Warren was preparing for what might be the final battle of the war. Intelligence reports showed that the aliens were planning one last desperate attack on the American capital, hoping to force a surrender by capturing the government. "General Stone," the president said, "I'm authorizing the use of Project Guardian." General Stone nodded grimly. Project Guardian was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a series of weapons, platforms built using technology from the Roswell crash in 1947. The weapons had been waiting in orbit for over 70 years, disguised as communication satellites. "The Guardian platforms are coming online now, Madam President. When the aliens make their move, we'll be ready for them." "High above Earth, Major." Chris Johnson sat in the cockpit of an aircraft that officially didn't exist. The fighter was built using a combination of human engineering and alien. Technology recovered from dozens of crashed ships over the decades. It could fly in space or atmosphere, and it was armed with weapons that could destroy a Zephyrian warship. Phoenix Squadron, this is Phoenix Leader. Chris spoke into his radio. All birds are green and ready for combat. Roger, Phoenix Leader, came the reply from Phoenix 2, piloted by Captain Mary Davis. Let's show these aliens what human pilots can do. The final battle began when the Zephyrians launched every remaining fighter craft they had. Admiral Kexton was gambling everything on one massive assault that would break through Earth's defenses and allow his ships to escape. But the human pilots were ready for them. The dogfight that followed above Washington, D.C. was unlike anything that had ever been seen in Earth's skies. Human and alien aircraft twisted and turned in deadly combat, leaving trails of fire and smoke across the heavens. Chris Johnson locked on to an alien fighter and fired. His hybrid weapons tore through the enemy craft's shields like they were made of paper. That's one down, he reported. Phoenix Squadron, let's clean house. The battle raged for hours, but human pilots had advantages the aliens couldn't match. They were fighting over their own planet, defending their own families. They knew every trick of aerial combat that had been developed in over a century of human warfare. When the smoke cleared, not a single alien fighter remained in the sky. The Zephyrian Air Force, which had conquered the skies of 47 worlds, had been completely destroyed by human pilots flying ships that didn't officially exist. Down on Earth, the Zephyrian ground assault on Washington was meeting the same fate. The aliens advanced toward the capital with their remaining soldiers, expecting to face desperate human defenders making a last stand. Instead, they found themselves walking into the most sophisticated trap in military history. Every street had been prepared as a killing field. Every building concealed weapons that could destroy alien armor. The entire city had been turned into a fortress designed specifically to stop a Zephyrian assault. Colonel Eddie Brooks led the defense of the Lincoln Memorial, where the heaviest fighting was taking place. His soldiers were armed with the latest anti-alien weapons, and they had trained for months for exactly this battle. Let them come, Eddie told his men as alien soldiers advanced across the National Mall. This is our home. They want to take it from us. They're going to have to pay a price they can't afford. The battle for Washington lasted 12 hours. When it ended, the Zephyrian ground forces had been completely destroyed. Not a single alien soldier remained alive to threaten the American capital. But the most important victory was happening. In space, where Commander Rachel Stone and her team had successfully reached the computer core of the alien flagship. Virus uploaded, Rachel reported through her encrypted radio. Dr. Blake, are you seeing the results? In his underground command center, Dr. Blake watched as computer screens showed the virus spreading through the Zephyrian fleet. One by one, the alien ships began shutting down. Their shields failed, their weapons powered down, and their life support systems began to fail. It's working, Blake announced to General Stone. The entire fleet is going dark. We did it. Admiral Kexton felt his flagship shudder as the main power systems failed. Emergency lights flickered on throughout the bridge, and his officers scrambled to understand what was happening. Sir, we're losing all systems, reported his chief engineer. Something is attacking our computer networks from the inside. How is that possible? Kexton demanded. But even as he asked the question, he knew the answer. Somehow, the humans had gotten aboard his ship and sabotaged it from within. The great Zephyrian fleet, which had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, was now helpless. Their ships drifted. In space like dead hulks, their crews trapped inside vessels that could no longer support life. But the humans were not finished. Boarding parties launched from hidden facilities on Earth's surface, heading for the disabled alien ships. These teams included diplomats as well as soldiers, because humanity had bigger plans than just defeating the invaders. Captain Jake Morrison, who had watched the invasion begin from the International Space Station, now commanded the lead boarding ship as it approached the alien flagship. His mission was to capture Admiral Kexthin alive and secure the alien technology for study. "This is it," Jake announced to his crew. "6 months ago, we thought we were facing the end of the world. Today, we're taking their ships and adding them to our own fleet." The tables had turned completely. The hunters had become the hunted, and the Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that conquering Earth had been the biggest mistake in their history. But Admiral Kexthin still had one card left to play. Hidden deep in his ship was a device that could send a message to the Zephyrian homeworld, calling for reinforcements. If he could activate it before the humans captured him, this defeat might still be turned into victory. The race was on to see whether the humans could capture the alien commander before he could call for help. The fate of both Earth and the Zephyrian Empire hung in the balance. Admiral Kexthin sat in a windowless room deep beneath the Nevada desert, staring at the humans who had captured him. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something his species had never experienced during their centuries of conquest, complete and total defeat. Agent Ryan Cooper sat across from the alien commander, studying the creature that had once seemed so terrifying. Now, with his hands bound and his armor removed, Kexthin looked small and weak. "You want to know how we did it," Ryan said, not asking a question but stating a fact. "You want to understand how a primitive species defeated the mighty Zephyrian Empire." Dr. Martha Lewis, a xenopsychologist who had studied alien behavior for 20 years, sat beside Ryan. She had been waiting her entire career for this moment, the chance to interview a living alien commander. "We know about your empire," Martha said softly. "We know you've conquered 47 worlds. But you made one critical mistake when you came to Earth." Kexthin's 4 black eyes focused on her. Despite his defeat, he was still curious about how these humans had managed to do the impossible. "You assumed we were like every other species you've conquered," Martha continued. "You thought we would surrender quickly or be easily overwhelmed. You never considered that we might have been preparing for your arrival." "That is impossible," Kexthin said, speaking for the first time since his capture. "Your species had no knowledge of the Empire before we arrived." Ryan smiled. "That's where you're wrong, Admiral. We've known about you for a very long time." In another part of the facility, Dr. Richard Blake was addressing the United Nations via secure video link. World leaders from every continent watched as he revealed secrets that had been hidden for decades. "Ladies and gentlemen," Blake began, "what I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about Earth's history. For over 70 years, alien spacecraft have been visiting our planet. Most crashed due to mechanical failures or were shot down by our early defense systems." President Warren sat in the White House Situation Room, watching the broadcast along with her cabinet. She had known some of these secrets, but even she was surprised by the full extent of what had been hidden from the public. "We recovered technology from these crashed ships," Blake continued. "Weapons, computers, engines, communication systems. Our best scientists and engineers spent decades studying these devices and learning how they worked." In the interrogation room, Dr. Lewis was explaining this to Admiral Kexthin. "Every piece of technology we captured taught us more about your empire. We learned about your weapons, your tactics, your weaknesses. We've been preparing for this invasion for 50 years. The alien commander's eyes widened in disbelief. 50 years? But that means? That means you are walking into a trap from the moment you arrived, Ryan finished. Every move you made was exactly what we expected. We knew how you would attack, where you would land, how you would try to establish control. Meanwhile, in the captured Zephyrian flagship, Captain Jake Morrison was exploring the alien vessel with a team of engineers and scientists. The ship was a treasure trove of advanced technology that would advance human civilization by centuries. "Look at this," said Dr. Corinne White, Dr. Blake's former assistant, as she examined the ship's engine room. "Their faster-than-light drive is completely different from what we theorized. We can learn so much from this." Jake nodded as he looked around the massive ship. "And now it's ours. All 12 ships in their fleet are now part of Earth's space. Navy. The Zephyrian crews had been captured or had surrendered when their ships lost power. Most were being held in secure facilities around the world, but some were already cooperating with human scientists, sharing information about their technology and their empire. Back in the interrogation room, Admiral Kexton was learning just how completely his forces had been outmaneuvered. "Your enhanced bullets," he said to Dr. Lewis. "How did you know the exact frequency needed to disrupt our shields?" "We recovered shield generators from crashed ships," she replied. "We spent 20 years studying them, testing them, finding their weaknesses. By the time you arrived, we knew your shields better than your own engineers did. And your communication intercepts? Dr. Sandra Kim broke your encryption codes using computer technology we developed from your own captured systems. We were listening to every conversation between your ships and ground forces." Kexton slumped in his chair. "You used our own technology against us." "We improved your technology," Ryan corrected. "That's what humans do. We take existing ideas and make them better. Every piece of alien tech we found was studied, reverse-engineered, and improved upon." Dr. Blake's presentation to the United Nations was reaching its conclusion. The alien invasion was defeated not just by our military, but by decades of preparation by scientists, engineers, and intelligence analysts around the world. We turned their own advantages against them. "But what happens now?" asked the Secretary General of the UN. Blake smiled. "Now we become the spacefaring civilization we were always meant to be. We have 12 advanced starships, technology that will revolutionize our society, and the knowledge that we can defend ourselves against any threat." In orbit around Earth, work crews were already beginning to repair and modify the captured Zephyrian vessels. Human engineers were installing Earth-built systems and learning how to operate alien technology. Commander Rachel Stone, who had led the mission to capture the flagship, was now in charge of converting the alien fleet for human use. "These ships will form the core of Earth's first interstellar fleet," she reported to her mother, General Stone. "And their mission?" the general asked. "To make sure no other species suffers the fate the Zephyrians planned for us. We're going to become the protectors of the galaxy instead of its conquerors." Dr. Lewis continued her interrogation of Admiral Kexton. "There's something you need to understand about humans. We don't just fight to win battles. We fight to prevent wars. Your empire conquers worlds to expand its territory. We're going to visit worlds to protect them. You cannot stop the empire," Kexton said weakly. "When our home world learns what happened here, they will send a fleet large enough to destroy your entire solar system." Ryan and Dr. Lewis exchanged glances. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "Actually," Ryan said, "they already know what happened here. We sent them a message using your own communication systems. Would you like to know what we told them?" Kexton stared at him in horror. "We told them that Earth is now under human protection," Dr. Lewis said. "We told them that any attempt to attack our world or any other world will be met with the same fate that befell your fleet. We also included video recordings of your defeats," Ryan added. "Your own battle reports showing how completely you were outmatched. Your empire now knows that humans are not the primitive species they thought we were." 3 months later, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of what had once been the Zephyrian flagship Void Piercer. The ship had been renamed the Earth Defense Ship Freedom, and it was about to leave the solar system on humanity's first interstellar mission. "All systems are ready, Captain," reported Chief Engineer Eddie Brooks. who had been promoted after his heroic defense of Washington, D.C. Course plotted for the Centauri system, announced Navigator Amy Wells, the former NORAD officer who had tracked the alien fleet during their arrival. Jake looked out at the stars through the ship's main view screen. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrian Empire was deciding whether to seek revenge or negotiate peace. Either way, humanity was ready. "Take us out," Jake ordered. "Let's show the galaxy that Earth is no longer a target. We're now the hunters." The Freedom and its escort ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying a message that would echo throughout the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and they were nothing like anyone expected. On Earth, Admiral Kexton remained in custody, but he was no longer being interrogated. Instead, he was helping human diplomats prepare for contact with other alien species. His defeat had taught him something important about humans. They preferred to make allies rather than enemies. "Your species is unlike any we have encountered," he told Dr. Lewis during one of their conversations. "You defeated us completely, but you did not destroy us. You captured our technology, but you also captured our crews alive." "Why?" Dr. Lewis smiled. "Because that's what humans do. We fight when we have to, but we prefer to build something better. Your empire conquers worlds. We're going to help them become free." The Zephyrian invasion had ended not with the destruction of Earth, but with the birth of humanity as a galactic power. The species that had been considered primitive and helpless had become the most dangerous force the galaxy had ever seen. But more than that, they had become something the galaxy had never had before. Protectors who fought not for conquest, but for freedom. The fleet had disappeared on Earth, but from its wreckage, a new age had begun.